South Africa is once again gripped by a rapidly unfolding political crisis that is sending absolute shockwaves through the ruling African National Congress, creating a situation that many experts are calling the most precarious moment in the party's recent history, because as allegations and counter-allegations involving senior party figures continue to fly back and forth, they have reignited deep-seated tensions and exposed unresolved internal fractures that threaten to tear the very fabric of the organization apart. What initially began as quiet murmurs within the guarded party corridors, whispers exchanged behind closed doors and subtle shifts in body language at rallies, has escalated with terrifying speed into what many seasoned political analysts are now describing as a full-blown internal revolt, a chaotic environment marked by rushed late-night consultations, sharply worded public statements that barely conceal the rage beneath, and visible agitation among the ANC's top leadership who seem to be losing their grip on the narrative. Before we continue any further into this deep dive, please take a moment to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel, as your support helps us bring you these unfiltered political analyses. Party officials are currently scrambling desperately to control the narrative, deploying every spin doctor and spokesperson available, yet few observers doubt that the stakes are exceptionally high this time around, not only for the individual political careers of the heavyweights involved but for the credibility, cohesion, and ultimate survival of the party itself as a governing force. While crises within the ANC are hardly unprecedented, indeed, the party has weathered storms for decades, the current turmoil is particularly volatile and dangerous because it revives long-standing rivalries linked to complex corruption scandal narratives associated with the historic, bruising power struggle between President Cyril Ramaphosa and former President Jacob Zuma. These rivalries, which many optimistic supporters believed had been laid to rest or at least managed into submission, have resurfaced with renewed intensity, effectively reopening political wounds that never fully healed and proving that the truce within the party was fragile at best. What distinguishes the specific moment from past episodes of discord is not a single new accusation or a bombshell legal development, but rather the cumulative, suffocating effect of repeated scandal allegations, strategic leaks to the press, and public bickering that have once again fostered deep, paralyzing mistrust within party ranks. Analysts suggesting that the ANC has now entered a phase of paranoia where every public remark is scrutinized for hidden meanings and every gesture is interpreted through the lens of factional loyalty are not exaggerating, because the underlying crisis revolves less around new tangible evidence or court rulings and more around the renewed circulation of long-standing controversies that have acquired fresh urgency in the current volatile economic and social climate. Notably, it is crucial to understand that there have been no definitive legal findings or new court-driven revelations to date to trigger this specific wave of panic. Instead, the turmoil is being driven almost entirely by political fallout, intense media pressure, and the strategic maneuvering of senior party members who are increasingly seeking judicial clarification not necessarily for justice, but as a tactical means of stabilizing their precarious positions. Behind the scenes, away from the TV cameras, party communications teams are reportedly working around the clock in a state of near-crisis management, attempting to maintain a facade of order and unity while internal discussions grow more pointed, more accusatory, and increasingly emotionally charged. According to political observers who have watched the ANC for years, the true significance of this development lies not in the specific corruption charges themselves, which the public has sadly become desensitized to, but in the cumulative damage that years of internal conflict have inflicted on the ANC's public image, turning the Party of Liberation into a party of litigation. For nearly as long as the rivalry between Ramaphosa and Zuma has defined internal power dynamics, corruption allegations framed within this context have tended to divide the party rather than unite it against a common evil, reinforcing factional identities rooted in history, ideology, and personal loyalty rather than a commitment to the Constitution. Each side maintains its own fervent supporters, its own media narratives, and its own spheres of influence within the state apparatus, making consensus on any issue increasingly difficult to achieve. What appears fundamentally different this time, according to informed sources close to Luchuli House, is a palpable shift from private discontent to more open and visible opposition, signaling a party that is no longer merely managing internal disagreements behind closed doors, but struggling openly with existential questions of identity, leadership, and direction at a critical juncture for the nation. Publicly, ANC leaders continue to call for calm, urging members and the public alike to respect due process, uphold the principle of innocence until proven guilty, and resist what they describe as trial by media headlines, which is a standard defense mechanism when political heat rises. Official statements emphasize stability, discipline, and unity, projecting an image of control and responsibility that they hope will calm the markets and the voters. Privately, however, the intensity of crisis management efforts suggests an implicit acknowledgement that political image and political reality do not always align, and that reputational damage, once sustained in the age of social media, is incredibly difficult to repair. Political reputations may be shaken quickly, in the blink of an eye or a single tweet, but restoring public trust is a far more complex, grueling, and uncertain process that can take years, if it happens at all. Critics of the ANC have seized upon this moment of weakness to renew calls for greater transparency and accountability, skillfully arguing that the current crisis validates long-held suspicions about governance failures and ethical lapses within the party. Parliamentary pressure is steadily mounting as opposition parties smell blood in the water. Public discourse is becoming more polarized with every passing day, and the space for nuanced, rational debate appears to be shrinking as political camps harden their positions and retreat into their ideological bunkers. For opponents, the unfolding events are seen as vindication and confirmation of systemic problems that they have warned about for years. While for loyal supporters, the crisis represents a defining test, a crucible moment of whether the ANC can implement meaningful reforms without fracturing under the crushing weight of its internal divisions. Across South Africa, ordinary citizens, the people who actually rely on the government for services, are responding with a mixture of frustration, fatigue, and deep concern. Many are expressing a profound weariness with recurring cycles of accusation and denial that seem to yield little in the way of tangible change in their daily lives. There is a growing, palpable demand for clear answers, real consequences, and decisive action rather than yet another prolonged episode of political theater that distracts from the real issues. At the same time, some voices warn that excessive focus on internal factional battles risks diverting attention from the urgent, pressing issues of governance, service delivery, economic stability, and the energy crisis that the country faces. What unites these diverse perspectives, from the boardroom to the township, is a shared desire for truth, closure, and a political process that finally prioritizes accountability over factional survival. Mainstream commentators and legal experts continue to stress that even the most vehement accusations do not constitute final judgments, reminding the public that in a constitutional democracy, guilt is determined by courts, not by public platforms, Twitter threads, or political rhetoric. However, history shows that political damage is often inflicted long before any legal conclusions are reached, leaving lasting scars on institutions and public confidence regardless of eventual outcomes.